Hello and welcome back to 100% Real with Ruby. Today we have Matt Bolton back, who owns that amazing kitchen in Bali and pretty much gets to see exactly what it's like when people come to them with a whole list of, I guess, red flags when it comes to why they're not achieving the body they want with their current habits through food, through lifestyle. And I guess we even just had a conversation just then on how real stress can be in holding someone back, because the thing is, if you're stressed out, it's going to impact the way that you approach food, the way that you digest food, the way that you then use that food, the way that you think about food. You probably, like, when your stress is that high, you probably won't even remember when you accidentally slipped a handful of crisps into your mouth. Like, you're more likely to sabotage on your goals when you are stressed out. And Matt was telling me about someone that came to him and said that she saw someone about her stress, and this person told her it was all in the hips, and they worked through trauma therapy, and who knows whether it's voodoo magic, but it's very proven in the literature that what you truly believe is kind of what we expect to happen, thus it will happen that way. So whether she really believed that doing this stuff will release her stress from her hips, it helped her regardless, and she's never had those same issues again. And the reason I really want to talk about this is because when clients come to me and ask me, so what's this going to do? Or I change something and they want to know the specifics for why, I really try not to tell them what it is that I'm expecting or what they should expect, because that's just going to manifest it when maybe something else would have happened. And it's best to trial it out. It's best to see it, I guess, organically happen versus, like actually man-made through your own construct of thoughts, because that is such a thing. Like, if I say take this pill and you'll immediately start getting stronger in the gym, all of a sudden you're revved up to go, you're excited for the gym, and all of a sudden you're getting PBs. And that's because you had that belief in that pill. And it is really important to understand this, because sometimes not getting an answer is actually beneficial for you, because it's allowing you to actually put it to the test. And I guess it also means that you won't be spending ridiculous amounts of money on certain supplements or certain anything, because all of a sudden you're getting this amazing effect from something that could be expensive or could be a burden in some way that wouldn't have had that effect had you not expected that effect that it was meant to have. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. And it's why it depends, or let's just see, are probably the most powerful words that you can hear sometimes. And I guess using that in the whole mindset scheme of things as well, believing that you can is honestly the most important first step to achieving anything.
Yeah.
And one more thing on the topic of stress is, if you do not address to that stress and take a step back, it is only going to hinder you more so when you're given a meal plan or you're given whatever it is to actually progress, because you're going to stay so stuck in your head, you're not actually going to give yourself the time you need to gather your tools, gather your essentials to move forward. So with all of that being said, let's welcome Matt back. And I guess because he's been speaking a lot of macros lately, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, Mr. Protein, when it comes to macros, and also how important protein is not only to a stressed out individual, but to anyone in particular. Not even though, like, it's not just for building muscle. It's not just for those that want to get stronger, or it's not just for those that want to build, I already said, build muscle. Like, it's something that every single person needs. And the elderly people actually need it more. that's how important it is, like whether they're weight training or not, which they should be weight training. And I would argue that women actually need it more, especially the ones with higher body fats, because they are more insulin resistant. So it's better to actually feed them up on protein because it's the biggest fat burning macro, if we want to call it that. So I'll let Matt talk a little bit more about that and lead us into even why carbs are important for stress.
Thank you, Ruby. Thanks for having me back on. Touching back on what you said in the very beginning, the intro, I think that's a very strong line between telling and teaching. And like when you were saying, like when you are going through the process and you're guiding the clients through, and they're not expecting a certain outcome, but you're teaching them about why they are doing certain things, then whatever outcome they come to, they're going to learn from. Whereas if we tell them what to expect, or just tell them to do this without any process of learning, they're never going to be, they're always going to be wanting the handheld and never be able to go out into the big bad world on their own, because they're not going to know all this stuff. They're always going to be like, oh, Ruby, can I do this? Ruby, can I do that? Matt, can I do this? Can I? And it's always going to be, there's never going to be a process of learning in that. So I think it's a really great thing that we do with the clients is to provide a level of learning and education as opposed to just telling them what to expect from that. And it makes the whole process of learning and enjoying it much better and easier for them to get to the goals and the results. So talking about proteins, and as you were saying, you are right. As you get older, we're experiencing muscle loss, just a natural process of getting older, which, as we know, as we hit about 40, 45, we are going to experience a lot of that rather quickly. So all the research points to a higher protein diet and a good level of 3 or 4 days a week of about 30 to 45 minutes of resistance training 3 to 4 times a week for elderly, or elderly, I say older population. We got to be able to maintain that muscle mass as we get on. As we know, once you are starting to lose muscle mass, the risk of other diseases come into play. So keeping proteins nice and high and keeping that lean tissue is going to help us have a better foundation of health. And it's also going to mitigate a lot of stresses that these guys may experience, especially when we're looking at that 40, 50 years plus. These guys and girls are the ones that potentially have a lot of family things going on, or they have businesses, companies to run. They got a lot of stress in their life anyways. So that protein is going to be utilized way more than 21-year-old Sally down the road that just, goes to college every now and again, or does online college now and, goes partying every weekend. Not to say that it's not important, but it's a different level of importance. It's much more important for the older population. So and that goes hand in hand, when we're looking at the stress response and the level of stress that the older population can have. We also need to play a role with the carb intake as well. Yes, carbs aren't necessarily a essential macro, but they are well documented for controlling stress levels. As we know, when stress goes too high, we have high levels of cortisol, we have high levels of adrenaline that come with that, that downregulate a lot of hormonal and physiological responses. The best, cheapest, and wildly available anti-stress drug is carbohydrates. It brings down our cortisol levels, it brings down our adrenaline levels. It has the inverse relationship with those two, with the increase of insulin. It also helps to promote higher dopamine levels, serotonin levels, which helps to then control our sleep better. If we sleep better, we can mitigate more stress levels, and then it just allows us to, progress through all the other stuff. If we are, lacking in sleep, creates more stress, creates more insulin resistance. We have to build on everything from a baseline. So we base from a nutritional perspective, proteins, carbohydrates. Then we can look at stress management from a level of sleep, breathing exercises, actually getting rid of some stresses if they're not needed to, because one thing that we wonderful humans love doing is just adding stress to our lives for no particular reason. I don't know why we do that. We just love living in extremes and just either doing way too much, trying to take on too much, not looking after ourselves, looking after way too many things, or trying to be responsible for too many things, and not giving ourselves a break, taking our time and allowing just the simple pleasures in life to be able to live a healthier lifestyle.
So something you did touch on there is especially why protein is so important when we are living a high stress lifestyle. And as we know, our muscle is made out of proteins, meaning if you are not getting enough protein in your diet, your body is going to take from your muscle stores. And when you are stressed out, it is more likely to take from your muscle stores. When your body is not able to actually utilize fuels like carbs, either because you're not giving it enough carbs, or you're doing a ridiculous fad diet, or you've been chronically dieting, your body is going to use the muscle stores. And this is why a lot of people feel like they are actually gaining fat in a deficit, because you are. It's not that you're getting fatter in a deficit. It's that your body has now eaten at the muscle. So you are effectively expending less energy, but you're stressed out. You can eat the extra carbs to try and reduce your stress. But something I'll get Matt to talk into very soon is, once you get to that point where you're insulin resistant, you've been dieting for ages, you can't utilize the carbs properly anymore, you're eating away at your muscle. If you try to use carbs then to bring up your calmness, or to bring up your insulin sensitivity, or to reduce your cortisol, or whatever it is you think it's going to do, it's actually going to do the opposite effect. It's going to add to your body fat stores, because you have not actually addressed the fact that you are still living in a chronic deficit. You're not actually taking the holistic approach of reversing slowly up and of doing the things that you need to do to address the stress management and actually make your body more sensitive to the carbs, which is exercise. And it's actually proven just one bout of exercise can increase your insulin sensitivity in just that one bout. One bout of walking. That's why people say walk before a meal or after a meal to improve your insulin sensitivity, something that I make sure that all my PCOS girls do. So maybe we should dig deeper into why protein is so essential for high stress individuals, and about why having more carbs than our body needs at either end of the spectrum, either being so chronically dieted or being so like having too much body fat, how that can actually then be a negative thing, especially if we don't have enough muscle mass.
Yeah, well, I think you bring up two good points. It's we have our lean body mass and our fat mass. We have to add up to 100%. There is 100% of us, and we have to add up to 100% somehow. So if we are 100 kilos and 20% body fat, that means we have 20 kilos of fat mass on us. If we want to reduce the weight and we go and we do a massive deficit, we do lots of training and all this kinds of stuff to lose weight, and then we drop down to 90 kilos, you may find that you weigh less, but now you're 25% body fat. And you're like, how did that happen? So now we have this a smaller body, but I've got more fat mass. How does that work? Well, it's exactly what you were saying. You've done too big of a deficit. You're doing too much work. The body is regulating itself because it's thinks you're trying to get rid of it. We still pretty hardwired for two things, which is survival and reproduction. It really doesn't care that we want to be have 6-pack abs or run a sub 40 10K. It doesn't really matter. It wants to do two things, and that's survive and reproduce. So when you go into this extreme dieting and you drop carbs, you drop fats, you drop proteins, and you do a bunch of cardio, probably not even resistance training, just a bunch of cardio, because that's the way everybody believes is the best way to drop weight quickly, right? We now weigh less, but we still have more body fat. So we didn't get the results that we wanted. And now we have this metabolic shitstorm of downregulated physiological processes that doesn't allow us to eat the foods that we enjoy, doesn't allow us to sleep well. We've made ourselves more insulin resistant. We can't enjoy the carbs. We can't enjoy anything that we like, because we've got this high stress response, but now more body fat with that. So the second point you made was actually just moving, walking. If we are trying to lose weight in a sustainable fashion and being able to still enjoy a lot of things, just moving your body, walking. Maybe, if we say we walk 10 to 15 minutes before and after every single meal, we're going to get a lot of steps in. We're going to get a lot of movement in, and we don't even have to worry about doing extra fitness. We can just worry about doing some movement, which makes the whole process of being able to enjoy the foods and stress management a lot easier to fit into a lifestyle without having to worry about doing 3 training sessions a day or trying to do 90 minutes, 2 hours of cardio. If you're just walking pre and post dinner or feedings, imagine that you're doing now, if let's say we eat 3 times a day and we're walking for 15 minutes pre and post, that's 90 minutes of walking, which is way more than, it doesn't have to take too much time, right? It's not like, oh man, I have to drive to the gym or I have to go for a walk and I have to do all these stuff. It just fits into a lifestyle. And if we have families, it also promotes a good lifestyle for the kids and other people within our families and within our reach, within our relationships that we have. But going into the stresses and the reason why protein is so high is, as we said, if we are going into a weight loss diet and we're trying to lose weight, the best thing that we can do is to try to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. The training isn't to burn fat or burn calories. The training is for keeping and retaining that muscle mass, so that when we use the diet and the lifestyle to reshape our bodies and give us the look that we want and the outcome that we want, we're left with this masterpiece that we've been building. Too many people were worried about the training to burn calories or get the results, whereas in a general population sense, it's more about the lifestyle and the factors that play a role in that will give you the results more than the actual training. Training is there to give and sculpt and maintain, tone up, whatever verbiage you want to use within the training, however you want to train. Maybe you like doing circuit training. Maybe you like doing resistance training. Maybe you like doing CrossFit or F45, whatever it may be. It's a way for you to keep a level of fitness and maintain some form of muscle mass, lean body tissue. The other side of it is the lifestyle, the steps as we come to know it, the actual eating behaviors, and the stress management that play a bigger role in getting the results that you want.
We could talk about this forever, because honestly, there is honestly so much just in this topic. And we're going to have to probably make another episode to talk about what we originally wanted to talk about, because the topic is honestly just like the training itself. If you're approaching it with the mindset of, I need to lose weight, I hate how I look, all this restrictive thinking, you're not aligning your real true goals to your habits, because you're seeing it as something you have to do or that you should do, not something you want to do, that means you're not actually attaching it to something that can bring you an outcome that will better your life. And a lot of people go in with that mindset of, I need to just do as much activity as possible, because if I stop now, I'm going to get fat. And then all of a sudden you get so consumed by the process that you sabotage, you start to hate it, you start to resent it. And especially when you mention training to burn fat, this can do more harm than good. This is when you will lose weight easily until you don't. But the thing is, you'll lose weight and actually end up with a higher body fat percentage, because you should always train the way that you train to build muscle, because you want to train to build the muscle. You want to train to keep the muscle. If you're training to burn fat, you're going to end up eventually losing that muscle, because you're not training to keep it. You are training to, in your attempts to burn calories, you're training like an idiot, to put it frankly. And you're probably not even fueling that activity. And then you'll start adding in more stuff because you're not getting the results that you want. And you'll probably not even be active throughout the day because you just smashed yourself too hard in the gym. And you actually don't burn that many calories when you're training compared to the rest of the day. Because if you're a total monkey, you will probably be like literally, if you are a total monkey and training 2-3 hours in a day, there's still the other 20 hours, 21 hours of the day where you're probably going to be lying like a log or sleeping on the couch because you feel freaking wrecked from that session. If you're training like a normal person, maybe 45 minutes to 90 minutes in the gym, you have even more hours outside of that, and you need to use them. And not everybody can walk before and after a meal, but you need to also know that it's either I don't have time or I'm not making it a priority, because you can wake up a little bit earlier in the morning to go for a mental health walk. The way you frame things is important. Like, don't even consider it a chore. Like, make it your time, especially if you're a mom. You don't get a lot of time to yourself. So why don't you make that time in the morning? Why don't you make that time after tea? Go for a walk, or get like a cycle for your house, a little mini treadmill for your house. Put on some music and make that your sanctuary, because you don't get enough time for you. And that is so important, to get the time for you. And stop thinking you can't do things because of the kids. Why not get them involved? Don't you want to be a good role model, for example? Like, get the kids involved, get them seeing that this is family time now. Have more time with the family. You'll foster your relationships. And I guess now, touching back on the carbs, like you mentioned, I want to actually touch on why some people can actually sleep better with carbs before they sleep, or sometimes it keeps them up at night, like where the insulin sensitivity comes into this, where the cortisol comes into this, where the individual comes into this, and how exactly that relates to the stress response, and also how that could be beneficial for someone training fasted in the morning or training first thing in the morning, and just how much more important the nutrition should and could be for someone who's training first thing in the morning without much fuel beforehand.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that, as you are dieting down, the harder you work, the higher the intensity, the more carbs you need. The bigger the stress response is, the harder you work and the higher the intensity of your training and the volume of your training, the more carbohydrates you're going to need. The lower your carbs, the higher the intensity, the more stress response that you're going to have. And then that has a knock-on effect to everything else.
I do just want to say, don't just relate this to the gym, because that same thing happens when you're working hard at work, when you're working hard as a mom in the house. The same thing happens. And you don't just add the carbs in and leave everything else as is. This is where you need to have a lower fat approach, so that you aren't having an excess of calories, but still favor the carbs. Because just because you're not smashing yourself in the gym, you need to realize you are still smashing yourself at life.
Yeah. So like you said, it doesn't matter if it's training or life, we work, whatever it may be, the more stress that we have, the higher our intensity in life, the more like on edge that we are, the more beneficial carbohydrates are going to be. not only just from a stress management point, but usually from a body composition standpoint as well, and everything that's related to that. Going into the sleep response, what we tend to find is that people that are overly stressed, overly working, and that are already struggling with sleep, they want to look at all these techniques. They want to look at supplements to help them. And one of the first things that we look at is sleep hygiene. We look at their routine. So do we have an electronic sunset? Do we have a dark, cold room? Do we make sure that our we're shutting down the blue light and all that kind of stuff? Are we doing everything that we can to put us into the right sleep response before we look at supplementing that's going to mask all the underlying things? Are you working on the computer till midnight and then trying to sleep straight away because you've got to get up at 5 a.m. to drive to work, or you got to go to the gym nice and early to get your session in, but you're only getting 4 hours of sleep? You're not feeding yourself before you go to the gym. You're doing a high intensity circuit class fasted on 4 hours of sleep, and then you wonder why you can't sleep again at night, every single night, and everything is getting worse. And you're doing all this work, but your body composition isn't changing. You feel worse. You're getting aches and pains. Progress in the gym is stalling. You can't concentrate. Everything is going wrong. It's taking a step back. We're looking at a lower carbohydrate, probably low fat as well, moderate protein, I guess, maybe. But, for a lot of it, people are just low on everything, and trying to get as much done as possible. Whereas what we need to do is kind of bump up the proteins, bump up the carbs, keep fats at minimal that allows us to enjoy the foods, because fats make food tasty, but also for hormonal responses. And then use those carbohydrates as a way of allowing us to mitigate some of that stress response so that we can sleep. How it does that, insulin and cortisol have a inverse relationship. So as one goes up, the other one goes down, and vice versa. Best way of mitigating some of that stress response through the cortisol and the adrenaline is to use carbohydrates. Carbohydrates boost up the insulin. With the insulin, it also gives you a boost of dopamine, serotonin, that allows us to go into this rest and digest mode. People may experience it when they, let's say you don't eat for a long period of time, not for any particular reason, but let's say you don't eat and then you feast on, burger and fries or something really carby like a cake or something like that. You get this muffin and then you just hit a wall. You just hit this crash. That's that stress response coming in, or the response from the carbohydrates that's making us sleepy. It's not necessarily a bad thing. What it is telling us, though, is that we can use that to our advantage. If we're having, something that is going to replenish our glycogen stores, ready to work out in the morning or ready to kickstart the day, we can use something like some rice or some potatoes, something that's going to fill us up and make it satiating rather than donuts and cakes and stuff in the evenings. But we can use these things as a way to make sure the body is fueled for training the next day, but also allow us to downregulate those physiological responses that are making it hard for us to see progress, making it hard for us to sleep and mitigate those stresses.
So much gold in that, because the fact that so many of us in this day in life, and if you're living in Australia right now, and if you're part of the two terror countries, the two terror states that are going through an apocalypse right now, you would know exactly what I mean by we're thrown with a whole washing machine of things out of our control, and we're leaving less and less time for ourselves. And this is where we need to also realize that people want to look like athletes and competitors, yet they don't eat like athletes and competitors. Athletes need to perform. Competitors, when they're actually in their performance season, they eat to perform. They're not chronically dieting the whole year. And unless there's some stupid competitor that literally is probably down regulating all of their hormones, all their own gear, and pumping themselves with who knows, then they should not be doing season to season. And if they do, they are seriously fucking themselves up. But back to my point, they are not dieting year round. They are not in season year round. They may appear it because, hey, it's social media. They can do whatever the hell they want on social media. So stop comparing yourself to athletes and competitors. You're not getting paid to live that lifestyle. You're not someone who has the ability to live that lifestyle because you have kids, you have a job, you're trying to actually make money to have a living because it's really freaking hard these days, especially with what's going on. So focus on what actually matters in your lifestyle. But
that is their game. So if we take the approach for an athlete, which is, we have the off season, pre-season, in season, and the recovery phase, we can take that approach to a normal person. Because if we think about the athlete having their games and going through and having to be able to perform well and function well, and they're getting paid for this, then why can't we have that level of thinking for everybody else? Like, you're getting paid to do a job. Okay, so maybe some jobs you can just go in and do and you're still going to get your paycheck. But if you really want to do well, why not serve well by providing yourself with a foundation of nutrients that's going to allow you to perform well? We've got to have, let's say we are, we have a high functioning professional that wants to, it's a CEO or something, you own your own company. You can't just be fasting for 7 days a week and expecting gold. We have to perform well to be able to build a business or run a company or just to perform well at work. So if we take that same level of thinking and think that this is my playing field and this is the game that I'm going to conquer, we're going to win this. And an everyday win, not just a win every now and again, but we're going to win the day. How can I do that from a baseline level? What can I do to help myself from a nutritional standpoint, from a recovery standpoint? What can I do to make every day a win? Because if you're going into the game tired and frustrated and achy and all this sorts of stuff, you're not going to win. Eventually, we're going to lose. And we have to take more time off than we should do or that we need to. So if we can take that level of thinking and think that, okay, what do I need for my role or my job or my performance? Let's, instead of thinking like, you said there, maybe you're a mom with kids, right? That is your playing field. That is your game, your sport. You are a mom, and whatever anybody believes, it is a difficult job and a difficult role to manage a family and manage kids and do all this stuff. You're on your feet all the time. You've got so many things to think about. Maybe you're a mom that goes to work as well as running a family. You have to perform well, and you have to give yourself the winning advantage by looking after yourself from a nutritional, lifestyle, and habit approach. You can't be running around just looking after everybody else without that self-care and attention. Sorry.
I love that. If you could see my face right now, you should just see how it just lit up listening to Bolts talk about that, because that's the thing. Your life is a playing field. Stop standing on the sidelines and start playing. Start fueling yourself for the game. And you're not just fueling yourself to train in the gym. You're not just eating to lose weight. You have a lifestyle to support. And if you do not support that lifestyle, you're going to end up with this body that's trying to survive. You're going to end up eating freaking 1,300 calories and wondering why you're not losing any weight, because you just starved yourself for God knows how long, not actually fueling your lifestyle for that whole period of time. Your body has now adapted. Your systems have now down-regulated. And the longer that you've been doing that for, the longer it's going to take to get you out of that mess. And, stop thinking of the gym as the playing field, because it is not. That is something that you are using to enhance your life. And in enhancing your life, you are also enhancing your body. And this is why I say stop focusing on the outcome. Focus on the process. what is training bringing you? It's bringing you a stronger body. It's building you the muscles that are going to make you look really great, but that's the outcome. The input is doing the reps, doing the sets. People don't push themselves hard enough. Focus on getting your intensity up in the gym. If it says do 15 reps and you're stopping short at 10 and it's something like a lat pull down machine or a leg press, you can pause and go again. You don't just stop at 12, like actually push out the 15. Get yourself to be comfortable with the discomfort, because your body is going to run away from that discomfort every single time if you're so used to cutting your set short. And like that mentality leads into the rest of your life as well. Are you a quitter there? Well, you'll be a quitter in other things as well. But that's all up to you. Like, it's all within your control. And like Matt said, if you're so stressed out, you're run down, you're not fueling yourself enough, the last thing you want to do as a busy mom is be like, oh, I'll just chuck in this HIIT session here. I'll just do this group class there. No, less is more.
Yeah.
Stick to your structured weight training routine, because you're doing enough crazy shit in your life. You don't want to add another form of stress. Now, talking about all of this as carbs, protein, essential fats that you need, which is not coconut oil, because that's a shit fat. You want to talk about the healthy fats like your olive oils. If you want to use olive oil, which I highly recommend you do not use oils, especially if you're a female, because that's going to take up a chunk of your calories and then you're going to be left hungry, which is why I usually say do not use oil at all. But when you want to use like the spray oil, go for olive oil. For everything else, go for nuts, go for seeds. If you love peanut butter, add that in. Go for eggs. It's okay to have a little bit of dairy fat as well in forms of cheese, because you're going to get some calcium with that. Anyway, back to our point, you don't eat protein, you don't eat carbs, you don't eat calories, you eat food. And now this is where the most important thing comes in: nutrients, especially when it comes to stress, because we all know stress depletes our B vitamins, it depletes our selenium, it depletes our iodine. What are they important for? Our thyroid. It depletes our magnesium. What's that important for? I'm sure Matt will list a whole bloody list of things about magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, and vitamin D, which we also lose. So talking about nutrients and this absurd, this little thing about let's just add in this bar because it's under 100 calories. Oh, look, we can fit in this protein ice cream, this protein bar. Eat real food, people. This is where it becomes even more important. Why is this so important, Matt?
So, I mean, eating real food is, the number one factor. We can do a lot just by eating real food. I think we also need to, at some point we need to look at, what is applicable to people, but is it applicable to always eat real food? Is there times where certain things can be easier for people to be able to get all of their food in that they need to? But on the whole, eating real foods plays a crucial role in the foundation of health. And for most of us, being able to look good, perform well, and just win at life, that foundation of health is the most important thing. Regardless of whatever we may want to achieve in the gym, whatever we want to achieve outside, we've got to be able to fuel that. And if we are just focusing on the macros or the calories, we may be missing out on a lot of good, solid nutrients. And the nutrients that are going to come from our whole foods, our whole food fats, fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, and those animal proteins that we're fixating on. Those are the ones that are going to give us the most bang for the buck. Starchy carbohydrates, whole grains, those things, they provide a host of what I call wealth for health. We have all the B vitamins that we have in there. And we have the animal proteins as well give us a bunch of B vitamins that we need for carbohydrate metabolism. So if we're missing out on a bunch of these vitamins and minerals, it doesn't matter about the macros per se, because we're not allowing the cofactors in to be able to do what we're doing. So we're missing out on the essential nutrients that we get because we're not taking in these vitamins and minerals. As a whole, I would say that it's great for people to take in like a multivitamin to help with that. But if we get a variety of whole foods, lean proteins, whole food fats, a mixture, like, you know, for me, I'm an advocate of getting in a host of fats, just making sure that we are aware of the quantities. You know, I'm a big fan of coconut oil, big fan of extra virgin olive oil. They do come with a lot of calories, but they also come with a lot of benefits, you know. So if we are just aware of how much we are using throughout the day and not putting in 2 tablespoons with butter in our coffee in the morning, then we're going to have a lot of benefits from those, you know, where the medium chain triglycerides that we get, and the monosaturated fats that we get from the different fat sources are really really great for a lot of the hormonal processes that we need to maintain that level of health. So, you know, I think I lost my train of thought there, but making sure that, you know, if we're looking at a wealth of health first, building that base, then getting a variety of different foods, different colors, different textures, different tastes and smells, all of those build a bigger picture of allowing a host of nutrients in and giving ourselves a bigger playing field to be able to do a lot more with. You know, we fixate on just a few items. We're not benefiting ourselves at all.
The more that we focus on what we are cutting out as well, kind of makes it harder for us to actually truly enjoy a whole food approach, because we can think about is what we're missing or what we're cutting out. And that's exactly why I am actually working on right now, beat the marketing jargon, beat the bullshit that you see in shopping stores, file for both my inner circle as well as putting up on social media, because like I was saying, food isn't just macros and calories and carbs and fats and proteins. It is also emotional, and sometimes it is like we want to actually feel happy with what we're eating, and we can have that through whole foods. We can have that through veggies and fruits and proteins and whole grains, but in this day and age, we're going to want to grab some snacks. We're going to get faced with marketing jargons and marketing slogans like raw and vegan and organic and natural, and it's just going to lead us down this bottle hole of, I'll grab these veggie chips because it says it's made from veggies. Look at the packet. It's got no veggies in it. It's 20% vegetable powder. And the main ingredient is flour. Second main ingredient is some form of oil. That is one of the biggest things that we have an issue with, and that's why I'm bringing out this whole file that I'm going to start spreading across my socials. But the thing is, you need to be aware of this stuff, and you need to actually look at the labels, not just at the nutritional panel, but also at the ingredients, because it will say there is no added sugar, but you need to be able to recognize sugar in its other forms and try and avoid fat in its other forms, because that can bring with it a lot of saturated fat, that can bring with it a lot of trans fats. And I mean, the biggest reason I'm an advocate of always dropping fats when it comes to grabbing packaged ingredients is because those usually come with the highest calories. And a lot of people want to be able to eat more if they are a female. So I would always say, be very wary of the fat content in your packaged ingredients, because I don't like getting fat from that stuff. Like we were saying, we want to get it from actual wholesome sources that bring us the variety of health, because fat should be seen mainly as bringing us that health. And yes, there is that enjoyment too, but you need to realize that every gram of fat brings with it 9 calories. Like, as long as you're aware of that, then you're able to actually make adjustments within your meal plan to accommodate for whatever junk food it is that may have higher fats, like your dark chocolates, like your nut butters. Like, most people have nut butters in their plans anyway, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I guess this is where you need to recognize that make most of your foods whole foods, plant-based, because not only is that going to benefit your gut, when we're talking about carbs and starchy carbs, like Bolt said, that's going to feed the good bacteria. And most of the people that are having bloating issues, that are having gut health issues, they go looking for supplements and all this other stuff, where all you need to do is actually look at the foods that you're eating, because you need to feed that good gut health. And then, there's this person goes on about how sometimes volume eating can actually disrupt your gut. And it's like, no, volume eating doesn't do that at all. If, like, volume eating is actually amazing for your gut. It is feeding the gut bacteria. If you're being ridiculous and eating all this stupid sugar alcohols and high fiber products, then yeah, you are disrupting your gut lining. And if you're going to say in the same sentence, sorry, I'm thinking about someone in particular and it's really frustrating. But if you're going to say in the same sentence that volume eating is bad for your gut and it's bringing you bad food issues, this is going to be such a good topic. We can touch on it a little, but it's going to bring you bad food relationship. And when you go out to eat dinner and they give you a small portion, you won't be able to stop eating. No, because your body also regulates based on caloric density. So if you're having a 500, 600 calorie meal, that's the size of my freaking bum cheek versus the size of, I was going to say my hand, but my hand's too small. So just the size of two of my hands versus the size of, like a big salad bowl, you will still get satiated because it's probably got higher fats in it. It's going to actually chew your food more because you're in the presence of other people. But in the same sentence, this particular person then posted a photo of a Big Macca's feed. Yeah, okay, cool. So volume eating is going to ruin your gut and the Macca's feed isn't. You need to realize that processed foods, especially when eaten very regularly, disrupt the gut lining. Emulsifiers disrupt the gut lining, and that is found in a lot of packaged foods. If you're having it occasionally, that is fine, because if you're giving yourself all the nutrients you need, you're actually repairing the gut in the process, and you're still giving your body what it needs. And if this is actually something else we can go into as well as that part I just mentioned, but if you're giving your gut not only the nutrients, but I guess your taste buds as well, you will eventually be able to enjoy those foods a lot more and not feel so deprived, because you'll realize, yes, I can fit this in. I just don't need to have a lot of it all of the time. Maybe we'll go into that whole, yes, there's that appetite thing as well. And it's not like how food volume can really actually help us in that sense as well, because it's not only going to keep us leaner for life, but it's giving us all of the nutrients to then replenish.
Yeah. I mean, if we're looking at, these pre-packaged, protein snacks and stuff, one, maybe we have to look at, why are we snacking? What is the snack bringing to us? Is it convenience? Is it, I'm hungry? Is it, Christ, we could list a whole host of reasons why somebody is grabbing a snack. Then we have to look at, all right, if it's hunger, what can we do with the other meals? Can we bulk them up? Are you getting enough of these nutrient dense foods to allow you to last for 3 to 5 hours before you're hungry again? Because if you're eating something that is not nutrient dense and you're hungry within another 2 hours, and you've not done any exercise, if you're just sat at your desk and you're hungry within 2 hours, then I would say that we need to look at bulking up the foods and giving you more nutrient dense food so that food lasts longer. Because if you're snacking after 2 hours of having breakfast, whatever your breakfast may be, probably a large Starbucks latte and a chocolate muffin, then we need to look at those nutritional strategies to help boost up the actual foods. But the other reason is, convenience. So if it's convenience, you know, what we do, and I know that you do a lot, is you're educating your clients on the importance of food and the value of food. So one, it's not just about the meals, but it's about preparation. So let's prepare our own snacks. Then at least we know what's in them, you know. And by snacks, I don't mean you have to bake bars, protein bars. You can just make a smaller meal, you know, protein-based meal. You know, if you're looking at getting a snack that has 15 grams of protein per se, let's boil up 2 eggs, put a bit of spinach in there, some carrot sticks, whatever it may be, and you got yourself a nice whole food, you know, snack. Couple of boiled eggs, some nuts, maybe, if you want, you know, more fats in there. It's all about preparation and planning, and have the mindset to win every day, to make every day successful, and not having these, you know, these convenience foods within us. You know, that's the whole reason why we have this. We have McDonald's and we have Starbucks, because we've built this level of convenience into ourselves. But I would argue that preparing your own foods is more convenient than ever. You know, it's exactly what you need. It's exactly what you want to eat, because we're making these snap decisions based on what is in front of us, and it may not be the best. But going back to the education point of view, I know what you do with your clients. It's really great. Is that you're educating them on the nutrition information. So being able to read a nutrition label is completely different than just looking at the nutrition facts. Like looking at the facts and going, oh, 15 grams of protein, 12 grams of carbs. That's completely different to actually going, and then looking at the ingredients and reading the actual information and going, yeah, no, I'm not going to put that, because you, as you said, you look at the ingredients, and usually the ingredients are listed in the most amount of volume first. So if you're looking at something that has sugar as the first or second ingredient, or some form of sugar, probably don't want to be eating that on the regular. You know, you want to be making a better choice with that. So being able to know what you're eating by learning how to track your foods and read food labels, and then being able to prepare your own foods, knowing what you need during the day for your own macro calorie budgets, is way more beneficial than anything else.
This is going to really tie into the segment that I wanted to talk about with. So aside from also the fact that we want to make sure that we're not just going to, like, this is something I wanted to bring up before, so we're going to revisit that first. Right. So Matt brought up the fact that, like, we might want to have this for convenience, and sometimes we can have some other stuff here and there. And that is the exact point. Like, sometimes you need to actually question yourself, because he mentioned somewhere in the, like, just before, that you may have not eaten for a while, then all of a sudden you're getting, like, you're so hungry, you just grab this massive carby, fatty meal from whatever it is. And this is why you need to be, like, it is important to give yourself regular meals. And if you're going to, like, if you're going to be that person that's highly stressed out, with your cortisol levels already through the roof, your insulin going, like, your insulin sensitivity resistance thing going crazy, and you're just in this chronic state of stress, and then you're trying to skip meals, or you're trying to, like, save calories, or whatever it is you're trying to do, and then you're going to have this high carb meal. You need to take into effect that the insulin response from all the meals that you have play a big role in what happens next. Because if you're going to have something that really spikes your insulin, then you're going to be really hungry really soon after that, which is why it is so important, once again, to go for the whole foods, because not only do they have fiber, which reduces the glycemic index, and not only will they have protein, which reduces the glycemic index, and it will probably also have a little bit of fats, which reduces the glycemic index, then you're going to have more of a blunted insulin response. And if you're not having a regular meal schedule, and then all of a sudden you have this big meal, the food volume itself, regardless, is going to have some insulin response because you're already so stressed out that anything that you put into your body then is going to make you not feel so satisfied after. And that's why usually people get into this binge restrict cycle. And why it's so important, as of my reel I did this morning, don't starve yourself, don't cut out food, don't fast after something like that happens. Get back on track, because you're going to end up in that same loop, that same cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to now touch on what we were saying before about it is so important to have a plan in place, a meal plan in place. If it's like, if you're working off macros, because I have some clients that are on flexible meal plans, on meal plans, like flexible meal plans, plus they have access to macros, or they are just macros. There are those three options. But the thing is, if you're flexible meal plan plus macros, or you're just macros, or even if just a flexible meal plan person that wants to play around with their foods and have like swap things here and there with their ingredients, like you guys need to actually sit down once a week, like seriously make it once a week, so you're not actually revolving your life around food. That is really ridiculous. Once a week, sit down and get a plan in place for the week. Get a plan in place for what you're going to eat when you're at work, what you're going to eat as snacks through the day. Prep at least 2 of your meals in advance for every single day, because that makes 2 less decisions you have to make, 2 less trips to the kitchen. Just make shit easier for you. Now, being someone who works in a kitchen, I did ask him how a usual day is for him. And he mentioned that clients come in, they have a console, they talk about, hey, so you don't use macro calculators, do you? No, like macro calculators don't ask you what your diet history is like. They don't know jack shit about you when they spit out stupid numbers. This is the beauty of having someone who actually sits with you, asks questions, and actually goes deeper into just, how much do you weigh? How sedentary or not sedentary are you? How many times do you train a week? No, it's deeper than that. And one thing Matt talks about with them is how a meal plan can actually benefit them. And I guess a lot of them actually come to him, like I said, not getting their goals despite all of these attempts, which I assume they would have had multiple attempts before and always failed, or always got caught up with something, always questioned something. So what is it they usually come to you eating, and what are their usual goals? Where is it usually falling short? And how exactly can these meal plans help people? And why is it so important to have a plan in place for the week?
Oh man, it's so important. it's crazy important. What we always find is that everybody has so much information and tried so many things, but instead of trying consistency and just a little bit of effort, I've tried keto, I've tried fasting, I've tried this, and I've tried that, and I've tried blah blah blah, and I've tried all this kind of diet styles. But because there's so much information, it's like Monday, Tuesday is keto, and then Wednesday is high carbs, and then Thursday is intermittent fasting, because they don't really know. So it's like every day is assigned a different method to dieting. And when we sit down, as you said, the first thing we do is we always go through a nutritional consult, unless it's somebody's coming to us that already has a baseline of knowledge and they know what they want. But we sit down and we go through everything. So we go through diet history, training, lifestyle, what's brought them here, and how everything is just come to this point where they feel that a macro-based meal plan is going to provide some value for them. We get through all of that. We give them their macro numbers, and with the plan we do biofeedback. So not to the level of nutrition coaching that we do online or in person, because we are providing the meals for them. Each week we do biofeedback, and we get to open up a dialogue about what has worked well, what isn't working well, but also other factors that we ask. We ask about sleep and stress and work and lifestyle and all these other factors that can play a role, not just in nutrition. So that gives us an opportunity to ask questions and open up a dialogue and see if we can offer some other guidance that will help the meal plan do what it's supposed to do. And what we find is that just that level of consistency every single day for at least 7 days, up to 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes between 7 and 14 days. But that period of just straight consistency, getting exactly what they need 100% of the time, works 100% of the time, like regardless, without fail. Like, and we're inundated with crazy testimonials. Like, I was skeptical at first, and I didn't really, but I trust you guys, and voila. Like, it's just, everybody's always like, I can't believe it's worked so well in such a quick time. And I think that when people try to do too many things at once or for too long, you can see changes very, very quickly. Sometimes everybody's individual. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It is up to the consistency and how much effort and time they put in. We have had people that get all the meal plans, but still only about 60% compliant because they're out with friends and stuff. It's just the nature of the beast here. Being in Bali, it's quite a social place still. So, there is that. But the people that do just follow the meal plan 6 days a week, take into consideration our advice for their day off of the meal plan, and following, the prescription, like getting an idea, really visualizing what meals they're having through the week, so they can get an idea of their portion control when they go out on their own. Or perhaps we talk about having Sunday or one day a week where they are allowed their non-negotiables. Maybe they go out with their friends and have a couple of drinks. Maybe they have their pizza or whatever it may be, as long as they understand and they're aware of what is going to happen. But the meal planning in general always trumps everything else. I can guarantee it.
On those last 2 points, understand and be aware that if you are going to make particular choices, there are always going to be consequences. And you need to also realize that, yeah, you can do social things, but should you? And if you have particular goals in mind, and if you are actively in a deficit phase where you're doing say a 4-week, 8-week cut, because we live around maintenance most of the time. That's how it should be. We should live at maintenance. And if you are currently in a period where you are in a deficit dieting, then just get it over and done with. Like, you need to actually realize you should not be going out with your friends as often, or maybe go out with your friends, but actively make the choice to attack it in a certain way. Like, plan ahead. If you want to enjoy something, then you're going to have to make some sacrifices before that, which may, consequence, leave you more hungry because you're going to have more calorie dense meals. If you drink, well, hey, that's not going to fill you up whatsoever. You're going to be starving, but hey, it's a consequence for your choice. So you need to, I want to touch on the insurance policy of, have the insurance policy in place. Most of your food is whole foods. Most of your food is on plan. Most of the week is on plan. Don't just go and ruin your weekend and go out with friends and do it every single weekend and then hate yourself for it. Don't do that. Plan ahead. If this is something that you want to make part of your lifestyle, plan ahead. It may mean that you're more strict in the week, but you still have to plan and not just go out and be a silly willy-dilly on the weekend. Plan to be a silly willy-dilly, because then it's actually still allowing you to be on track to your goals. Now, the thing that Bolt said, which I'm going to quote him on this, is, when it comes to dieting, have you ever looked at the plan and gone, fuck that? Because chances are it's way too complicated. The thing is, people fail at simple dieting. They really fail at the simples. It's either too simple, or they get impatient, or they start comparing themselves again, or they get back into the identity or mindset of, I need to lose weight as fast as possible. Or one of the big things that I see, the less I eat, the faster I'll get results. And we already spoke about that this whole episode, so I don't need to go into that. No, the less you eat, not the faster you'll get results. The faster you will actually crash and burn and then put all the weight back on again, plus more body fat. And that's something the biggest thing that both Bolts and I go on and on about is chew your food like an adult. Do monkeys chew their food? I'm pretty sure they do. Chew your food like a monkey, because they really chew their banana as well. So keep that one in mind. And if you can actually imagine a monkey chewing a banana now, and actually make sure that you are chewing your food like that monkey every single time you sit down. Imagine Ruby's monkey eating a banana with a lot of bites. And maybe that will actually be a really good cue for you to chew your food. And like, you need to ask yourself, what steps can I make now to make fat loss a lot more simple? And we spoke about before as well, you need all of those vitamins for metabolizing fats, for metabolizing carbs, for actually using your protein. So get in enough nutrients, eat your bloody protein, and plan ahead, have your meal plan. Bolt's just told you all of the amazing feedback he's had from people that have actually gone from free willy dilly, trying this, that, the other, and not really having a plan in place at all, no structure with their eating, to now actually having a structure, having that accountability, and not having to think twice about their food because it's all in place. And yes, they can have little subs here and there because they know what their plan is. They have routine now and they can easily make it fit, not have to stress themselves out and then just blow it anyway because there's too much thinking involved. So we spoke about so much, except we didn't dive deep enough into the whole naming and shaming foods, the guilt and shame, the internal dialogue. But I guess that might have to be another topic for another time sometime, because there was just so much gold. And I guess because everyone loved Boltz's tips last episode because they were so practical, I will let you talk about your current favorite tips when it comes to keeping shit simple and I guess navigating the marketing jargon and I guess picking the best choices in terms of staying lean for life. And in that, I guess being consciously aware and realizing that for every choice there's going to be a consequence. So what are your tips?
So when we keeping things simple, so people make simple complex as well. Like when we were talking about your the choices that we're going to make, if we want to add in some flexibility to our structure and our routine, let's say we eat 3 times a day, 7 days a week, that's 21 meals. And let's say we have an 80-20 rule, that 20% of those meals are going to be flexible. That's 4 meals. That's 4 meals a week. So if we are going to plan for some flexibility within the structure, then that's only 4 times out of 7 days, 4 meals out of 21, which still gives us a lot of opportunity to be quote unquote on plan. But yet if we are building it into a plan, then we are not off plan. We are always leading to the goal. It's when we make it more complicated than it needs to be, and when we on plan Monday to Friday, and then we're off plan Saturday and Sunday, and then we go, oh fuck, Bolts, Ruby, I fucked up, leading on what we all posted today, which was brilliant. I've messed up, I did this and I did that, blah blah blah. What should I do? Should I fast for 72 hours and go to a sauna and sweat it all out? Should I do extra circuits? All of this extreme response or reaction to something that was quote unquote considered off plan. So I would say to keep things nice and simple all the way through is to write out your menu, write out a plan for the week. What do I want to eat this week? And we use the core 4 method. I kept it nice and simple for my clients and myself. It's 4 proteins, 4 fruits, 4 veggies, 4 whole grains, and 4 fats. So we just pick 4 of each for the weeks, and then you can mix and match as you go along. And depending on the meals, what meal it is, if it's a post-training meal, have more carbs. If it's just anytime meal, then we have more fruits and veggies and more whole foods. But keeping it nice and simple with a plant-based approach, a whole food approach, sprinkling in some lean proteins throughout most of the day is going to be way more beneficial than worrying about specific numbers, so to speak. If we're looking at it to be really baseline, really, really simple, fruits and veggies, protein on top, and then, extra carbs if it's pre or post training. That's really, really can be that simple. And we look at it, if we take simplicity with training and nutrition, and it goes hand in hand, we think about the big four. Yeah, we think about squats, deadlifts, pulls, and presses. Those things are magic when it comes to training. So why don't we have a big four when it comes to nutrition? We stick to the big four. We stick to plant-based. It's going to sound weird when I say it, but plant-based base. Then we take our proteins. Then we take our whole food fats, and then we sprinkle in some carbs as and when we need. We take that approach, and it can be much simpler to adjust the plan on a daily basis. You were talking about the monkey thing. So something that I was thinking about before was monkey see, monkey do, but that monkey is not you. So we have a lot of these gurus online that try to sell you this magic. Okay, follow my plan, follow my training. One, probably, like you said before, probably juiced up to the eyeballs on a bunch of stuff. They're not looking that way all the time. They do that way for their video promotion and their photos. And they try to sell us on this 12-week plan or 30-day plan or whatever it may be at a discounted rate, because they know there's no value in it. And they're looking for 5,000 people to buy this $100 plan that's going to last for 12 weeks. They're hoping for 5,000 people to buy this $100 plan. But the value comes in from individual coaching, where it's a higher price ticket, yeah, granted, but the value is there because it's individualized. So we see these things, monkey see, monkey do. We see it, we do it, but the monkey isn't you. We are individuals. What works for, even just now, me and you, we work hard, we train hard, we have specific goals, but we have completely different responses to the food. Even if we train in a similar way, which I think we do conditioning and we do our strength training, but we're very, very different. And, my training partner is very, very different, similar size. We're both about 85 kilos, sorry, but he's also 2.5 foot taller than me. And he also does a lot more walking around because he still coaches group classes. So he does way more movement during the day than I do. So we have a different approach. So if we were to do the same nutrition, he would probably be under fueling, under recovery. And so we have to look at that individuality throughout that as well, and not buying into this marketing jargon that you can get results within 12 weeks if you follow this plan, or if you follow this eating, if you follow this training, if you just do what I did. That isn't going to work because you are not that person.
See, I don't know whether it's because people think simple doesn't work, or people are scared of simple, or whatever it is, but simple somehow just doesn't get people. It's the stuff that promises results in days. And they would rather do something that's completely out of their ball, like their ball game, that calls for all this restriction, than actually do something that's sustainable.
Yeah.
I don't freaking know why. It seems ridiculous from the surface, but that's what they rather do. And they'll repeat the same pattern of sabotaging, of yo-yoing, of getting stuck, of putting the weight back on, of saying, oh, I'm going to try this diet again because it worked before. Well, if it worked before, why are you back to where you were when you started? It's ridiculous. The thing is, every single monkey is a different there's no such thing as cloning. Well, there probably is such thing as cloning these days, but not every monkey the same. And you don't see what's behind smokes and mirrors. And it hasn't been until recently that I started posting my training again on my page, and all of a sudden everyone's wanting to see my training, and they didn't realize the way that I trained before. And it's like, a certain way, they probably would, like, if I wanted to sell a product and say, this is what I did to get this, and people want to look like me, then they'll buy it for however much it costs because I want to look like me. It's ridiculous because it's like you're not actually seeing what that person is doing behind the scenes. I could pretend that I'm doing something to sell something, but I'm not. And you need to stop falling for that shit. And you need to, like, I want to sum it up, just condensing everything that Bolt's just said into a feasible way to apply it to numbers to address you, because that's the thing with the foundation. There's the core. There's the plant-based base, which I would just say is plant-based. I liked it. The plant-based base. That's the thing. Like, look at it as there's the base. You want the base to be plant-based, and then you want to add on your proteins and all that other stuff. And then as soon as you've got that, as soon as you actually have your ingredients listed down, then you start to apply the numbers to it from your meal plan. If you have that meal plan there, maybe you might say there's 100 grams lean protein somewhere, and then 100 grams like lean steak somewhere, and you know that the lean protein will be something that's like fish, something that's like chicken breast, turkey breast, egg whites, and you can try and equal up the protein amounts, because 100 grams of egg whites does not equal 100 grams of chicken. You need to actually do double the egg whites. So if you want to actually play around with it to that extent, open up Calorie King, open up MyFitnessPal, find a good entry and compare it. But the thing is, you have that plant-based base, protein, if there's fats in the meal, fats, if there's carbs in the meal, carbs, and then you just need to assign the right amounts to what it is that is within your meal plan. It's actually, it sounds complex, but it's not when it's on paper. This is why you need to not just start off at rung number 10. You want to start off at the bottom rung, which may be just shifting your lifestyle into a meal plan, because meal plans do work. Meal plans are amazing for most people, especially at start, because you don't want to think about all this other stuff and you don't want to go tracking your macros all the time. But getting a meal plan that is made for you close to your already intake, because you don't want to change things too much. So that I'm also introducing a nutrition hierarchy. So I'm running through it now just because I like what I'm introducing. So that's level 1. And then level 2 is slowly morphing it to better choices. Like, maybe we can have like 1 alcoholic drink a day, and then eventually moving it towards 2 or 3 a week as ideal. And maybe it might be, okay, we'll go with skim milk for now, or we'll go with just a small amount of full fat milk for now, and then we'll eventually bring it down into a smaller amount of skim milk or a smaller amount of almond milk or whatever it is. I'm just thinking of random examples, but stuff like that, just to make it kind of suit your lifestyle. And maybe it might be not eating much in the morning and just giving you a little snack because you're not used to eating in the morning just yet. Or you don't want to eat in the morning, you just want to have a coffee. So we just do the coffee in the morning, but then eventually building into actually having more regular meals throughout the day, so that you're not having this negative relationship with food where it's just eat all the things at night because you didn't eat enough during the day. And then we gradually build it into, like I said, a more idealized meal plan for you to get to your goals, and then bring in more flexibility within that plan, and then more flexibility. And then actually teach you how to swap things out yourself, instead of just telling you, you can swap this out, you can swap that out. Whereas at first, it's probably a really good idea to go with that, because you don't have to overthink things, and you'll learn what gets swapped for what. And now you can start to do it on your own. And then if you want, you can actually start to recreate whole meals versus just ingredients. And if you want to actually get super advanced and be actually bullet enough to track your foods and create your own meal plans, you can go to the full macros. But start from the bottom up. Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. You got it all. Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you for coming on. I will put all of Bolt's info in the bottom again, and I highly recommend you actually check out his latest posts that he's been putting up on the benefits of carbs, the benefits of proteins, and the benefits of proteins, and why protein is so amazing. And, just like why protein is so amazing. I just had to reiterate that, because it's the thing that most people come to us under eating, and the biggest reason why people don't get results. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for listening to this episode. If you have any other questions you want to ask, if you liked any tidbits, message either of us, and If you liked what Bolt had to say, share it, share this episode, tag him, tag me, and yeah, see you on the next episode.
Thank you for having me, guys.